Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to put these to the final test, and that is against an opal. So here I've got an opal rub. A rub means that it's already been scraped right back to expose the opal. This one's got a fair bit of colour and it's pretty much a perfect kite shape, and I just want to see if these are going to bring it out just like the Novas would. I recently did a video where I compared the Novas and each of those grits in the 4-pack to all of these ones here. These are a resin burr made in China, so a diamond resin. A very different resin, so a very different approach and a very different result, but I want to see if the final result, which is the one that matters, will transfer across pretty well to opal. We've tested it on glass, but we've got to do the final test with opal, so we'll see if we can get this one up to a shine. It's already looking pretty good, but if I chuck some water on it, you'll see it'll look a lot better when I can get it done and nice and shiny. But for that, we're going to have to go with these burrs. And I'm not going to even touch this with the sintered diamond. The only edge I've really got to fix up is this one over here. I'm not going to get it symmetrical from top to bottom, left to right. I'm going to keep it a bit odd shaped, but here you can see it's all curving out of control, so I've got to straighten that edge. And then we should be just about right to set this one into a ring. So, nice green blue, lightning ridge, a little bit of sand on the back, that's alright. We'll have to take that back in towards the end anyway, and because of how solid these resins are compared to the Nova points, I'm actually quite happy adjusting very significantly with this yellow 200 grit. As you can see from the glass slide, it really packs a punch and chews through like you would not believe. So while I'm waiting for the factory to make some adjustments, mostly around this color indicator, not a huge fan of that. So while the factory are making those adjustments, I want to test them a little bit more. And to do that, let's get them spinning and see how we go. And away we go, starting off with the 200 grit yellow diamond resin burr. Now this one is an incredible burr. I don't even know what to make of it. I don't even know if I should order it or not, or whether I should just start off with the 400, because this thing acts like it's a sintered diamond burr. In fact, I reckon the 600 grit sintered diamond has less action than this one. Watch this stone completely melt away. I get pretty shocked by it. Sand always disappears quickly, but this is disappearing far quicker, and it's not just sand, it's all the opal surrounding, and it is just melting, completely melting away. This freaked me out a little bit, and in this video we're going to watch me make a massive mistake. Pretty good. I haven't made mistakes like this for quite a long time, but the new tools have found a way to show me to be very inexperienced when it comes to these resin diamond tools, because it spooked me quite severely. You can see with the 200 grit, I was just working the back and a little bit of the side, but I watched this side melt and I panicked and swapped over to the 400 grit sintered diamond. Well, I say sintered diamond, but it's diamond resin. But I say sintered diamond because it also acts quicker than the 600 grit sintered diamond. This thing is blitzing through stone like you wouldn't believe. Here I'm being very overconfident and working on the edges. Not only that, but I'm working on the edges in a kind of across the edge rather than going with the edge. Now this is what you do when you're confident a burr is never going to chip the edge of the stone, but as you'll see, I am completely wrong, and this stone is definitely getting chipped by this 400 grit resin, and that part there makes me cringe because I have just hit the face of the stone. And because it's acting like a sintered diamond, and I say never touch color with the sintered diamonds, oh, this makes me cringe so much. This sets me back so far, and you'll see the poor finish we get on the stone because of this one wrong decision here. I should have practiced with these burrs on a piece of potch. I got way too overconfident and it's come back to haunt me, and you'll see why. And as soon as I dry it, my heart sinks. It just drops. If you have a really careful look, you'll see little chips and pits coming all out of the corners, out of the sides, but most importantly out of the face where the color is. Exactly what I didn't want to see, but I stopped and just thought, oh, I'll have a quick check, and as soon as I saw it, yep, it's just obliterating the surface right on the corners. Now what I should have done is, one, not hit the face, not hit the corners, but two, I should do what I'm doing here and I should have gone with the edge. You'll be far less likely to damage the edges, cause any chipping or fracturing if you go with the edge. A really handy thing to keep in mind, because every now and then you do want to remove something quickly, but you still don't want it to chip. And here you can see how careful I've become. I am now just skimming the top surface. I am honestly, at this point, sweating and scared. This burr has performed far more aggressively than I thought it would. 400 grit diamond resin, I thought, you know what, that's going to be somewhere between the 280 grit Nova and the 600. I'm very comfortable with that, but this isn't at all. This is acting more like a 600 grit sintered diamond. This resin is really hard, and I've learned my lesson now, and yes, I should just go with the 800 grit when I've got down to the color, because it's too much otherwise. It's way too much. There is a chance I may not even need the 200 and 400 grits, unless I'm working on stone where I don't want to use sintered diamonds, which is pretty rare. So maybe the kit won't need those at all when I start stocking it. Because the 800 grit, I think this is the champion burr. I think this is the one that could transition from the sintered diamonds across to the resins, just before you get to a pre-polish and a final polish. This is still taking away material quite considerably, similar to the 280 grit Nova points, but it is far more usable. It's definitely not going to chip the opal. I'm pretty confident of that, even though I haven't used it that much. But it is definitely not doing any significant damage, and it's getting some good action. It's carving away pretty fast. I think fast enough when you're transitioning to a polish. And then I jump over to the 1500. This is where you can start being much more comfortable. I'm not worried about removing material at this point. This 1500 grit, it will remove material, but nowhere near as fast as anything else. It's kind of similar to the 1200 grit Nova point. It's maybe acting a little bit faster than it still. Even though it's at 1500 grit, it's a hell of an adjustment for me. I completely lost the plot when it came to this carving, and I'm hoping to get a bit more practice, and then these will be probably my go-to burrs, because they are much faster. Because of the hardness, they carve through really quick, and they get the finish that they're meant to really quickly. So oblivious to a lot of the mistakes I've made, I switch over to the 3000 grit grey and just skim across the entire surface. Here I'm real happy with myself. I haven't checked between the stages well enough, because as you'll see, there are problems with this stone at the end, and there's no shying away from it or hiding it. It's much better to put it out there and say you've done something wrong and just learn from that. And this will be good, because I'm sure if many of you guys have used the Diamond Pacific Nova points, if I do give you a set of these burrs, you've got to be real careful. There is an adjustment period. Definitely work some potch. Don't be dumb like me. Learn from my mistakes, and don't go straight to a opal rub with plenty of color, because this is a really nice stone, and I'm going to have to go back and do it again, unfortunately. But you'll see here, just treating it pretty normal, hit the entire surface. Don't need to worry about the back so much at this stage. Don't need to worry about the sides so much, but you do want to make sure you get that front facing edge. You can work the sides as well. I typically do. It's not a lot more work, and these burrs are really quick, so it only takes a couple minutes per burr. But let's have a look at the nightmare. Wow, those burrs are impressive. Now this channel is about education, so I need to highlight the bad as much as I do the good. In fact, the bad is what you can learn from better. And here, I made a massive mistake, and I'm absolutely gonna need to go over this again, because I've done a terrible job. Now first, the terrible job. You can see there's all these little pits and scratches. If I can get the light to dance across the surface. Now we haven't used a cerium oxide or anything, and we shouldn't. We have to go back a couple grits. But you can see especially up here, and though it's not as important, on the side here, there are a lot of little pits and scratches. And some of the burr has actually seeped into those little pits and scratches, which is what those black spots are. Really not good. But that's what happens when you use new tools. And the main reason why this has happened is because once I got started, I got incredibly scared. I got so scared of some of these burrs that I pulled up way too short and should have worked a lot harder. So if I zoom out, these yellow 200 grits, these are pretty much still like sintered diamond burrs. This thing removes materials so quickly that I got too scared to use it on the face, and we just used it on the back and the sides, which is fine, that's not a problem. The 400 you would expect to be somewhere within the 280 and 600 Novas. This thing here is also way too aggressive. I started using it on the face, and this is what spooked me, threw me off, and caused the bad finish on the stone. So I've not gotten rid of the 400 scratches because I was one, scared of this burr, but then I change over to the 800 grit blue, that's this guy right here, and he is also way too aggressive. I couldn't believe it. So normally I'm using Novas, and I get to a point where you kind of yes, this will remove a lot of material pretty quickly. This, not really. That's the 600. And then you go up to the 1200. So this 800 is meant to be somewhere between these. And I swear this thing removes just as fast, if not faster than the 280. The harder resin burr is making such a monumental difference, it completely threw me off. So I got a little bit overconfident using these after playing with them on glass, but it's just not the same when you're working on an opal itself. This is nowhere near between these two, it is somewhere over here with the 280. So even once you get to the 800, you are removing material super quickly. It wasn't until the 1500 greens that I was starting to become comfortable. So that's this guy here. So this green one is when you can start chilling out. It is still actually removing material. It is not like the 1200 grit Nova. It is far more aggressive than that. In terms of grit, this is what you expect. You expect, yeah, 1200, this doesn't really remove material. It's already pre-polishing at this stage. This one is only pre-polishing. You're not removing any material with that 3000 Nova. But this guy sitting in between is definitely not sitting in between. It is somewhere way over here, maybe similar to the 600 grit. So for 1500, it still packs a punch, but it does start getting to the part where I was a little bit more comfortable with it. It wasn't just, I couldn't see the opal just disappearing before my eyes. If I was grinding for a while, I could see it, but it was, you're going to have to hold it in a spot for a while. It really was starting to do a pre-polish. But I'm going to have to go back. Looking at the stone, I am going to have to go all the way back to the 800 and just remove a lot of that minor pitting. I'll use a texture and mark it up. But all of that little minor pitting, you can see it, particularly that spot there is in the face of the opal. It has to go. And the sides, it doesn't matter so much, but I need to practice using these, and so I'm going to make sure I get rid of all of those pits on the side here. If you look at the areas that are good, it has gotten to that point where you want your pre-polish to be at. In fact, it's gotten a little bit past it. The cerium oxide doesn't require you to prep the face quite that well, but the better you do it, the better it is really. It'll just make the final polish a lot faster. And that's the other thing. So these diamond resins, compared to the Nova diamond resins, these operate so much quicker. I'm not joking. Each stage for this was 2 minutes, and I know I have to go back, but I'm gonna be able to blitz all the way back through the stone. It's gonna take me maybe 4 minutes to catch back up, dropping back to the 800, 1500, and then hitting it with the final 3000. It just goes so fast. It's so fast and so scary. I've just got to get comfortable with it, and then I should be good to go. This experience has taught me one thing, and that is I've got to commit to getting these things in stock. I got to get them manufactured and in stock because they are incredibly useful. And once I get used to it, I am 100% sure that these will be my go-to, and I don't think the Novas are going to be necessary for me anymore. Which, honestly, is a crazy thing to say. I never thought that would be the outcome, but it really is getting to that point. I just need to make the tweaks where we get the, I still hate this color coding, but I've organized with the factory to get the little bands put on, similar to the sintered diamond burs. So I can get those color coded little bands painted on the shanks. The resin is too hard to dye, so we're not gonna go that route. And also the shank, the only other thing that's annoying that I'm not gonna change is the shank size of these is bigger. It's similar to what you get typically on electroplated burs, the bigger shank, rather than the one I use for all my sintered diamonds. So an adjustable chuck is definitely handy if we go down this path, and I already use one, so not a huge adjustment for me. But yeah, my little kite stone, it's going to need a bit more work, unfortunately. I'm going to go back and do it again. It'll yield a really nice stone, but I should have probably practiced on a bit of potch. Even after years of carving experience, I really probably should have gone back to a piece of white opal potch and just made sure that I could get the stages right and get a feel for them, because it's scary when you're dealing with color and a rub. I thought that would be the easiest way to test it. Just hit it with a rub straight away. Big mistake. Big mistake. At least I haven't done any major damage to the stone that I can't repair. I do get the color bar pretty thin on this side, so I've got to be careful there. But on this side, I got heaps of room to work with, and it'll be still a great stone. As you can see, it's a beautiful, beautiful black piece of lightning ridge. A little small, but ring stones can be small. I just need to get rid of those little pits. So back to it, and I will try again with another stone and we'll watch these guys go to work again because it is incredibly fast and I'm both scared and excited. So the best thing to do is get over the fear and keep going until I'm no longer scared and I'm just excited. Catch you in the next video, guys. Back to work.